Hi everyone, just a quick follow-up video to the question of the week with Max and his computer game. And really this is for those people that prefer a bar method to work with these sort of ratios. Okay, so we're just going to focus on the part of the question that's trying to work out how many of each coin type there are. How many 5p coins, how many 10p coins, how many 50p coins there are in the jar. Okay, and we're going to start with our 2 to 5 to 1 ratio here. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is add up the number of parts in that ratio, just like we did before. So we've got 2 plus 5 plus 1. So that gives us 8 parts. There are 8 parts in this ratio. So the bar method is all about drawing a bar that represents this information. So we can draw a big bar, and we know there are 8 parts in our ratio, so we can divide that bar up into 8 parts. And that helps us visualize what's going on. So something like that. Doesn't need to be brilliant. So we've got 8 parts in our ratio. We can now start thinking, okay, 2 parts of that are 5p coins. So we could maybe shade in 2 parts. We'll leave the 5 parts and we'll do the 1 part. 1 part of that is 50p coins. So 1 part of that bar is worth, 1 part of that bar is for 50p coins. And that leaves these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts in the middle that are our 10p coins. That's 5 parts in the ratio. Okay, so having our bar, we can now think, okay, so the whole amount of that bar is our 120 coins in the jar. So we know that the whole lot's 120 coins, because that ratio tells us the proportion of each type of coin in that whole 120 coins in the jar. It stays in proportion. Okay, so all we've really got to do now is think, well, if that's 120 coins, what's this? That's the easiest one to start with. Well, it looks to me like it's 1 out of 8. It's 1/8 of the 120 coins. I've got to find out 1/8 of 120. So I can do 1/8 of 120. But remember, we can always change of with a times. 1/8 times, not 320, times 120. Okay, that's the same as 120 divided by 8. Okay, and from that point, you could check the other video, the steps are exactly the same. Okay, we're going to get 15. So there are 15 50p's. Okay, right, then what can we do? Well, we now know what 1 part is worth. 1 part of this bar equals 15. Okay, so to get that, we said 120, the whole lot, divided by 8, because we're splitting the bar into 8 parts, tells me 1 part's worth 15. So if 1 part's worth 15, we can now go back and say, well, these 2 parts here, which are the 5p's, must be 2 times 15. There are 30 5p's. 30 5p's. And the yellow part, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So we know 1 part is worth 15, so 5 parts, 5 times 15, that gives us 75. So we have 75 10p's. Okay, so I just thought I'd add that in case the bar method helps you. We've now got the number of coins, just like we did before. The other steps we could solve in the same way as in the other video. Just before I stop, okay, when we look at this 1/8 times 120 here, there is another way to do the whole part of this question like that. We could have just used fractions. We could have said, okay, 5p's. Okay, if we look at our ratio and express that as a fraction, we've got 2 parts for the 5p's out of a total of 8. For the 10p's, we've got 5 parts out of a total of 8. And for the 50p's, we've got 1/8. So another way to find the total number of coins of each type from there is we want 2/8 of, this is going to be messy, sorry, 2/8 of, what is it, 120. 2/8 of 120, 5/8 of 120, and 1/8 of 120. So if we do 2/8 times 120, 5/8 times 120, 1/8 times 120, it's going to give us the number of coins as well. Okay, so 2 different methods if those made more sense to you than the first method.